Hello and welcome. My name is Moni Singh, and this is a presentation of the Roone153 Financial Advisors Ministry to investors. A little about my journey. I encountered Christ at the age of 15 and rededicated myself to the Lord again at age 35 in 1991 and have been walking with the Lord ever since. The genesis of the Roone153 Financial Advisors Ministry began at the end of 2006, and it culminated in 1991 and in January in 2013 with the launch of the Roone153 Financial Advisors Ministry. The Roone153 franchise. The investment required in a Roone153 franchise is $250,000. Let me give you 3 reasons why you should invest in a Roone153 Financial Advisors Ministry. Reason number 1 is the eternal impact. The Roone153 Financial Advisors Ministry has a mandate from the Lord which is twofold. First, to locally empower the body of Christ with biblical financial principles. The alternative is for the body of Christ to be getting their financial counsel from the world, and we know who controls the world, which is based and it is based on profit, greed, on everything temporal. The second part of our mandate is to annually fund ministries in the 1040 window, which I'll speak a bit, which I'll elaborate on a slide a bit further down. And this is done through the this is done at the level of $12,000 to $350,000, which represents 20 to 70% of our after-tax profits from each Roone153 franchise. Reason number 2 is because of the return of capital. We're not asking you for a donation of $250,000. Every dollar that you give us will be returned to you in the form of an annual dividend payout, which is from $30,000 to $240,000 over a period of 10 years. And as to how the $30,000 to $240,000 comes about will be explained in a slide further down when I talk about the operations of the Roone153 ministry. Reason number 3 is because as an investor, you are currently invested elsewhere and you're looking for a return on your investment. Most people that I meet do not know what the average annual return on their investment is. But the projected return on a Roone153 franchise is 2% to 25% compounded annually. Now that comes from the annual dividend payout of $30,000 to $240,000, which on a simple return basis represents a return of 12% to 95%. If you take $250,000, if you divide $30,000 by $250,000, you get 12%. And if you take $240,000 and divide by the investment of $250,000, that represents 95%. So let me give you a backdrop on the 1040 window and on the Roone153 operation. This map clearly indicates to you what the 1040 window is. It is a region of the world represented by the western tip of Africa, by Mauritania, eastern tip of Asia, Japan, 10 degrees north of the equator, and 40 degrees north of the equator. Why is the 1040 window significant? There are 7 billion people who live on the planet right now, 5 billion of whom live in the 1040 window. 90% of the poorest poor, and 3 of the major religions of the world, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism, are dominant there. It is purported that 2 billion of the 5 billion people who live in the 1040 window have never heard of the gospel even once. The Roone153 operation has 3 critical components to it. The first is the GPS process, the second are our target prospects, and the third is how we create revenue. So let me start with the GPS process. The GPS process is the heart and engine of the Roone153 operation. It is a proprietary process that I developed over a period of 7 years. And what it does is it enables the signatories to stay focused on a goal, on a plan, and on a system to stay focused on the goal and on the plan, which is what the GPS in the GPS process stands for. The goal is financial freedom, and it has 5 components. One is to tithe, the second is to be optimally insured, the third is to become completely debt-free, and the fourth is to build a 6-month emergency fund, and finally to build an investment portfolio of up to $10 million. Now let me backtrack a little. The GPS process is based on 5 biblical principles. The first is that we are stewards and not owners of all the resources that God has entrusted us with. Second, that we are going to be held accountable as to how we spend these resources. Third, that debt is not biblical. Fourth, that we should live within our means. And fifth, that we should build eternal treasures. The P in the GPS process stands for the 10 steps to financial freedom, which is a lifelong biblically based financial plan. And it comes from taking the 5 components of the goal and breaking them into 2 steps each. The system is to stay focused on the goal and on the plan, and we do that through continuous quarterly financial workshops in evangelical churches, which every signatory, that means a person who commits to the GPS process, has to agree to meet with us once every 90 days at a workshop in an evangelical Christian church. Commitment to the GPS process means that you are willing to commit 20% of your total gross household income to the implementation of the GPS process, meaning to cycle and recycle it through the 10 steps of the 10 steps to financial freedom. Now, the distribution of the 20% of the gross household income goes like this. We take 5% to ensure that you are optimally insured for life and health insurance. And then we take 15% first to eliminate debt through a process called the reverse debt snowball. And once that's done, we recycle the same 15% into emergency funds to build a 6-month emergency fund. And once that's done, we recycle the same 15% of gross household income into investments. The second key critical component of the Roone153 ministry is the target prospects. And I'm just going to bring it back to the target prospects. So the target prospects of the Roone153 sorry about this, just let me get back to that slide. The target prospects of the Roone153 Financial Advisors Ministry are Christian couples with children with a gross household income of at least $50,000 who live no more than 1 hour's drive from where the advisor lives and who are between the ages of 25 to 55. Now that does not mean that we will not help anybody who does not meet this profile. All it means is proactively during our working week, we go after our prospect. We approach and try to get in front of our target prospects. Every Roone153 advisor is required to get in front of at least 10 target prospects per working week of the 48 working weeks per year. Level 1 production means closing 1 out of those 10. And by closing, I mean getting 1 out of those 10 people that we get in front of our target prospects that we get in front of to commit to the GPS process. And commitment means taking 5% of the gross household income towards life and health insurance. How we generate revenue. Each level of production, starting with the lower level at level 1, produces $135,000 of gross revenue, and this is how it's done. Given that the target prospects that we target have a minimum gross household of $50,000, and the GPS process requires that 5% of that gross household income be spent towards life and health insurance to be optimally insured. 5% of 50,000 represents $2,500 of premiums that we will be collecting per week. $2,500 per week of work by 48 working weeks represents a total of $120,000 in premiums. As per the advisor's contractual production requirement, he or she is required to produce at least at 75% of the annual production requirement of the annual production possibility, and that represents $90,000 in premiums. As agents, insurance agents, we are paid 50% of the premiums as first-year commissions. That represents $45,000. And depending on the organization, and in our organization, we are given, depending on the level of production volume, you get a bonus, and we get a bonus of at the top level, which is of 200%, and that represents a volume bonus of $90,000. So the total compensation per advisor per franchise in Roone153 franchise at level 1 production is $135,000. Every other level of production, levels 2 to 10, is a multiple of the level 1 revenue production of $135,000. Level 1 production is mandatory, as the contract of each advisor in each franchise stipulates that their contract will be terminated if they do not get past level 1. Levels 2 to 5 are doable because as you hone your skills and with practice, you can only get better, and with constant supervision from the franchisor. As incentives to the advisors themselves, who are motivated to move on to levels 2 to 5. Levels 6 to 9 are possible depending on the levels of income of the prospects and depending on the complexity of the cases. And mind you, our projections are based only on the production of life and health insurance premiums with 5% of the gross household income. The other 15%, which is used towards debt reduction and then in building of emergency funds and then into investments, will also generate additional revenue. So as an investor, when you invest $250,000, here is how the $250,000 is being used. $50,000 comes to the franchisor for business expenses, for business development, and for advertising, which leaves a cash balance of $200,000. We use the $200,000 to set up 4 franchises which require a working capital of $50,000 each, and that leaves a cash balance of 0. At the end of 1 year, each of those 4 levels each of those 4 franchises will produce at different levels, because each advisor will progress at a different level, and each franchise will have 1 advisor working in it. So let's make the assumption that in this example that it is a level 1 production of $135,000, which leaves a cash balance in the account of the franchise of $135,000. The advisor's compensation at level 1 production is 0, because we do not encourage them to stay at level 1. They will only get additional commissions as they get past level 1. So at level 1, the advisor's commission is 0. Corporate taxes are a reality, so we do have to pay corporate taxes at 31% of $26,500, which leaves a cash balance of $185,000. Hence, the net after-tax profit is $60,000, and you, the investor, will get 50% of the net after-tax profits, which is $30,000. And your ROI at this level, on a compounded level, is 2%. It is to be noted that the example that I'm giving you here is of a franchise with an advisor producing only at level 1. But with your $250,000, we had created 4 franchises, and what you will actually be paid is the most profitable of the 4 you'll be paid 50% of the net after-tax profits from the most profitable of the 4 franchises that were set up with your money. So hence, there could be a possibility of any one of those 4 advisors producing at level 2, where hence the return on investment would be 8%, or at level 3, 12%, 14%, 4, 15%, or level 5, 17%. Every time they move up 1 level, the net after-tax profit is a multiple of the $30,000 at level 1. Which leaves, using this example of a level 1 production, after paying you $30,000, cash balance in the franchise is $78,500. 20% of which will go to ministries in the 1040 window for the first 10 years until we pay you out, and in this case representing $12,000. 25% will go to the advisor's pension plan, because we do want to honor the advisor who's doing all the work and to plan for his or her retirement. 5% comes back to the franchisor for future business development, advertising, and business expenses, franchise business expenses. And the cash balance remains at $50,000, which becomes the working capital of the following year. Incidentally, all of our franchises will have a the fiscal year of all of our franchises is the calendar year. So this is a brief overview of the Roone153 Financial Advisors Ministry. If you have any questions, you may call me at 1-855-Roone115. You may email me at msing@roone153.com, or you can text or WhatsApp me on my mobile number at 902-445-6732. Thank you for your time in listening and watching this presentation, and I pray that you would prayerfully consider investing in this ministry, and may the Lord richly bless you. Thank you.